Welcome to the SBI Podcast, offering CEOs, sales and marketing leaders ideas to make the number.
Welcome to the SBI Podcast, a weekly broadcast dedicated to helping you make your number, but getting your peers to share with you how they're making theirs. Today we're going to demonstrate how to build high-performance sales cultures where sales talent thrives. Now, why this topic on this day? Well, Peter Drucker famously said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." And nowhere else is this truer than in sales organizations. Yet, unfortunately, many sales leaders neglect investing in the culture of the sales department, and this often results in poor performance. So this episode hopes to help you prevent this mistake from happening to you so that you don't miss your number because of bad behavior in the culture. So my name is Greg Alexander. I'm the CEO of SBI, and I'm your host. And helping me today with our demonstration is Vicky Oxley, and she is the Regional Vice President of Sales at Comcast NBC Universal. Vicky, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Thanks, Greg. It's really nice to be here today. As you said, I am the Regional Vice President, Sales and Marketing for Comcast here in the Washington region. A little bit about me. I actually started off with a degree in French. And when I wrapped up that degree, I went right into a sales position and account executive position at Xerox, and that's really where I learned, I would say, the foundation of good sales training and good sales technique. From there, I moved over to the wireless industry. A small startup at the time called Cellular One, Macaw Communications, which some of you may be familiar with, AT&T Mobility today. I was there at AT&T Singular, AT&T Wireless through many, many iterations, about 20 years. So had a delightful career in the wireless industry. And then spent some other time in software as a service and telecommunications, and then wound up here at Comcast a little over a year ago. So it's been a fantastic ride so far. I'm sure many of you are familiar with Comcast being the nation's largest video or TV, high-speed internet and voice provider to residential customers. We also do provide services to businesses. So it's just been a remarkable experience so far.
Okay, fantastic. I always like to talk to people that started their career or had an early stop in their career at Xerox. Quote, back in the day, if you will, they were the best developer of sales talent in the world. So I'm sure you learned lots of fundamentals that you probably still rely on today from that time period.
Absolutely do. We actually refer to ourselves as Zeroids. There's a number of us around, and the training was just fantastic. And I still do, talk about spin. We talk about fab. We talk about all different techniques that we used that still apply today. It was just a great foundation.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so on to our topic here of culture in sales departments and turning culture into a weapon. So let's start at a high level. So for the audience, Vicky, if you wouldn't mind, please describe the sales culture that you have built inside of your team.
Yeah, I'd love to. So it is something that I am very committed to, building cultures where people can thrive. And the thing that I love about where I am today is that the sales culture that we have created here really sits underneath a broad company culture. The company here, Comcast, is so committed to the culture and what that actually means, whether that's our operating principles, taking care of our customer, making it the best product, making sure that we're driving results. We've got, long-term profitable growth. We're fast, we're nimble, we've got game-changing technology, we're open to new ideas. We actually have our own Shark Tank here internally. And then also just respect, diversity, and what really permeates all functional areas and all channels is a commitment to integrity. And that's integrity in dealing with each other and dealing with our customers, and then also how we just do things right. It's just paramount that we actually do things right every single one of our dealings with each other and with our customers. So it's a really broad umbrella, I would say, that we have underneath. That we've got the broad Comcast culture, but then our sales channel culture is just part and parcel to that in terms of, how we just want the mindset to be, making sure that we're all aligned foundationally, because it's just so important that we all are looking at things in the same way.
In my consulting practice, I get a chance to see a variety of different cultures, sales cultures in particular. So some are kind of customer service-like cultures. Maybe that's one extreme. Another might be kind of your classic hunter, new account acquisition culture, very aggressive, activity-driven culture. Maybe that's the other end of the extreme, and there's kind of plots along the way there. So if I was to put you on the spot and ask you to give me a single word or phrase that would describe your team and its culture, what would it be?
I would say it is, I guess the way I would like to look at that is, and respond to that would be to say that we are passionately driven to making every customer interaction the best that it can possibly be. That the customer's experience with us in every interaction is the best that it can be.
Okay, great. All right, so customer experience, so that's the culture. So you want your customers to have a great experience with you when they engage with you, regardless of what you're talking to them about. So that's a descriptor of a culture. Now, why did you choose that? If you think about all the possible things that you could be focused on, you decided to focus on that one. How come?
In my experience, every interaction that we have with a customer matters. So whether that's someone who is just leaving, say, one of our stores. In fact, I had an experience. I was walking toward one of our stores the other day, and a customer was coming out with a bag, and it had, a set-top box and some other things in this bag, and he looked at me and he goes, "Look at all my goodies." And he didn't know who I was, but I thought, that is fantastic. And I walked right in that store and I said, "You guys, you did it right." He was just absolutely elated. And every interaction, so whether it is in our store or it's a direct salesperson, it's knocking on somebody's door, it's in our call center, our centers of excellence, or an enterprise salesperson, every one of those interactions needs to be that way, because that's really how we're going to be successful long term, is if we do it right and the customer is excited and thrilled about just having spoken with us or done business with us.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so I got one more question for you in this segment, and then we'll take a break. And it's somewhat of a philosophical question, but given all your years of experience with some of the countries and the world's greatest companies, I thought you would be a good person to ask it to. So the question really is, do you believe that sales teams outperform salespeople, or are a group of lone wolves more productive?
Such a great question. So for me, it is definitely that you can't go it alone. You can't do it alone. And I love, there's a phrase that I often think upon, and it's from a book, The Truth About Leadership by Coos and Posner, and the phrase is, leadership is a team sport. Certainly there may be a captain, but without the team working together, no one really scores the winning goal, and I really believe that. Working together, we win together, and we can all learn from each other. Salespeople share ideas and concepts, and we listen to each other, et cetera. We are one big team, and that's really how we approach it here.
Yeah. So I agree with you, although I come into contact with sales leaders of all kinds, and sometimes, they really value that lone wolf, and they describe that lone wolf as somebody who's low maintenance, who puts up big numbers. Give me a group of those folks, and life would be good. However, where I see that falling down is it gets awful mercenary and awful competitive internally. And the competitive battle is external, not internal. So sometimes too many lone wolves inside the same four walls can be a negative thing. So I love your quote, leadership is a team sport.
Yeah, and I would add that some of the things that we do here, we do huddles. So morning huddles, and they happen every day, whether you're direct sales or you're part of a store team. We do huddles and we share best practices and we do shout outs, and it's really all about keeping people invigorated, learning. They're sharing, hey, I heard this yesterday, I learned this yesterday, and everybody, the whole machine moves forward if all of us are working together that way. Certainly you're going to have superstars, we get that, but we can all learn from each other, and I'd like to think that culturally here, our top performers are just as eager to mentor and bring along, say, new people into the organization as they are, making sure that they're hitting their goals, because it's an environment that we just foster and really promote.
Okay, fantastic. All right, we're going to take a quick break. During the break, I want you to think about the 3 questions I asked Vicky. Do you know the answers? And more importantly, do you like the answers? If not, we can help you. Consider having one of our experts spend some time with you in a workshop. To get a feel for what is covered in this workshop, go to sbi.tips/2017 workbook and download a copy of the workbook we use in these sessions. And turn to pages 292 to 294, and those are the pages that specifically talk about sales culture. Okay, you're listening to the SBI podcast. We'll be back in 20 seconds.
Meet Jake, the VP of Sales for a growing tech company and an avid runner. During his marathon training, he listens to SBI podcasts.
Dedicated to helping you make your number.
This way, he can stay in shape and stay on top of the emerging best practices in sales and marketing.
Your job as a sales ops team is to make the sales team more efficient.
Now that he's mastered the 8-minute mile, he's planning to make his number and take over the top sales spot in the tech world. So watch out, competition. Jake is right behind you.
Help the audience understand how you prioritize those accounts.
And he just got his second win. How do you SBI? Podcast, video podcast, blog, TV, magazine. Access it all on the new SBI app, available now in iTunes.
Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to the SBI podcast. I'm your host, Greg Alexander, and today's guest is Vicky Oxley of Comcast NBC Universal. And today we are demonstrating, or Vicky is demonstrating, how to build high-performing sales cultures where sales talent thrives. So we're going to jump back into the questions here, and I'm really going to emphasize this last phrase, where sales talent thrives. So my first question is, when you look out into the future, what are the key leadership positions you're going to need to fill in, say, the next year or maybe the next 3 years?
So, great question. Ironically, I just backfilled 2 director positions. One was open for retirement reasons, and the other was promoted or moved to enterprise sales. So, good reasons in both cases. But I did just go through the process of backfilling 2 very important positions. One was for our direct sales, our outside sales team, and the other director position was for a communities leader. We do a lot of new build construction, and I know where you are, it's probably the same as it is here in Seattle. There are cranes and new buildings popping up everywhere, which means more plats, more single-family units, as well as what we call MDUs, or multi-dwelling units. And we've got a team of folks that actually helps with the building of those units and making sure that we have products and services that serve those structures. So I did backfill the director position there. So I'm hoping that I'm stable now for the foreseeable future. But if not, we've got a really fantastic process here internally about how we do source for candidates, both externally as well as across the company.
Okay, so let's talk about that process. So really kind of a two-part question here. So the first one is the performance management program that you use to develop future leaders. So it sounds like those were some internal promotions, which is always great to hear. And then I guess the second question associated with that is how do you identify internal candidates to place on the succession plan?
Yeah, great question. So from a performance management program in terms of how we're, developing our future leaders, we've got a sales professional culture. So if you think about our frontline or supervisors, looking at managers, looking at director positions, we are really devoted to that sales professional culture where I'm not going to call it scripted, but we've really identified actions that we want our leadership, our coaches to be doing on a regular basis, whether that's daily, weekly, monthly, semi-annually or annually. So it's a very systematic process. To make sure that we're really growing and developing our people and making sure that we have that bench strength that's available when we do promote somebody. So having a slate of candidates always is really important, I think, certainly for anybody who's in a leadership position, to making sure that we've got the right succession planning, but then also making sure that we're grooming those folks on the front line to step into those high potential categories that we outline. And then I think you also asked about how we identify those candidates. We, at least twice a year, do what we call a leadership talent deep dive. And so we meet with our managers and our directors, and we go through our employees, and we talk through how they're doing from a performance standpoint. Are they movable? What are their career aspirations and goals? What are the things, once we've identified what those goals are, have we identified what their development path looks like? How can we help them get ready for the next role? We partner very closely with our human resources team. I don't think I've ever seen an HR group that actually is knee-deep in operations and really serves as a business partner the way our team does here. So they really help us with the knowledge and the understanding of employees who are meeting certain criteria for future positions. And it's this whole talent management plan and process, and then our leadership deep dives. It's supported throughout our entire organization in every single functional area. It's very intentional, if you will, and I absolutely love it because I don't think I've ever seen the intention around growth and development and promoting like I've seen in this company.
Fantastic. What a great answer. I love the terminology leadership talent deep dive.
Yeah, isn't that great?
It's great. And the sales professional culture with this cadence of daily, monthly, quarterly, yearly. Whenever you can promote from within, the risk of making a hiring mistake goes down dramatically. And the culture of the organization benefits tremendously because everybody else sees is upward mobility, so they become strivers. And they invest in the culture, and they pay attention to the development program. And it's not just a kind of a check-the-box type exercise. It's real and it's alive. So that's a fantastic job that you guys are doing on that.
Yeah, and your employees love to see that, right? Yeah. They love to see their friends and fellow workers promote, because it means that, if they do a good job, they have a career. Yeah, they absolutely have a career here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no question. All right, let's take another break. Before you come back, head over to the Apple App Store and download the SBI app. Now, why would you want to do that? This allows you to get all of SBI sales and marketing content, such as this show, easily on your phone. And we're all walking around with these computers in our pockets, so let's turn those into development devices. So get the SBI app. Okay, one more segment with Vicky after the break, and we'll be back in a second.
Meet Tom. He's the CEO of a leading medical device company, and this is his business partner, the latest SBI workbook. Every day, Tom uses the workbook to guide his sales and marketing vision. The yellow sticky? That's his corporate strategy. The pink sticky? His product roadmap. The dog-eared section? That's where Tom's mapped out next year's growth plan. The stain on the cover? That's from the champagne he popped open when they made their Q4 number.
That was a good day, wasn't it, Mr. Workbook?
How do you SBI? Take it to the next level with the SBI Workbook. Order your copy today at howdoyousbi.com.
Welcome back, everybody. This is our last segment with Vicky, demonstrating how to build high-performing sales cultures where sales talent thrives. Let's get back to the questions. So, Vicky, my next question is, how do you test employees in order to assess their readiness to assume the next role?
Well, I don't believe that there is actually a singular test or response to that. And what I mean by that is this has got to come every day. So whether that's day-to-day coaching, mentoring, and interactions with our employees, formalized one-on-ones, observations or, reviews, mid-year annual review, all of these things have to roll up into part of that process to really assess if someone is ready for the next role. I mentioned earlier that we do the leadership talent deep dives, and some of the questions around that process and like questions that HR and I would ask, say, my managers or directors would be, we identify a person, let's say they're a manager today, and we're looking at a director position. Are they ready for that role? And if they are, how soon? So is that a year out? Is that 3 years out? Are they willing to move? So, for example, I did backfill. Yes, they were internal employees, and both of them did move from other markets within the organization. They were identified as high potentials and selected for the role. So are they movable? We make sure that we note if someone is willing to relocate. Should they look at a smaller market versus a bigger market? And then what do we really need to do to help them get ready for that role? Let's say they are 3 years out. What are the development needs that we need to share with them? Are there some things around, say, executive presence or visibility, strategic thinking, some of those competencies, how can we help them get ready? So it's really this big all-encompassing process or program or thoughtfulness about how we identify employees and getting them ready for the next role within their career here.
Okay, very good. And then in terms of the succession plan, letting employees know, kind of when opportunities are going to become available. How do you communicate that? So first of all, I would say that, I with my team or my team with their direct reports, some of this is just dialoguing, and it's just, asking someone, where do you see yourself? Where do you see yourself going, this year, next year, and beyond, and identifying, through really concerted, open dialogues about, what their aspirations are, helping them see, if that's a realistic goal or not, and then developing a plan around the competencies that are important to that role and working with them so that they can develop those competencies. When roles become available, we're very transparent about posting and making sure that they're out there, and then as part of, say, monthly one-on-ones or a quarterly meeting or a mid-year, we might even talk about, some potential open positions that could be coming. But we're very transparent along the way, and employees
employees do know when there are opportunities. I would also say, it kind of unlike I've seen anywhere else, when I had my last 2 openings, I just reached out across my peer group, or HR reached out across their peer group, and we just said, do you have anybody that would be good for either one of these roles? Seattle's a great place to live. You have some high potentials that you could recommend, and there's just this big working together across both our division, but then really across the whole company, to just help employees. I don't mean this in a kind of a weird way, but it's almost like you've got chess pieces on a chessboard, and if an employee is looking for an opportunity, I'm the last person to hold them back, right? And I really felt like my peer group and our whole company really is the same way. If someone wants to promote, then let them do that, and we'll always find someone to step in as that replacement.
Yep. So it's great to hear that you have such collaboration and cooperation with your peer group. This issue of transitioning employees when they get promoted. So in the example that you just used, you had an opening in Seattle, and you moved somebody from another region, into that opening. Unhealthy cultures, the regional leaders fight with one another because they want to be on top of the stack rank. So if they had a promotable employee, they would never let you get your hands on him or her because that makes them weak and you strong, kind of thing. But yet in your environment, there was lots of collaboration. You put the employee first and everybody wins, especially the company. So how do you handle this transition when an employee gets promoted?
Yeah, well, we don't hold them back. I think that's really, we do work with, let's say, I did bring in someone from another region into my market. I certainly had the conversation to say, when is the soonest you could let this person go? And we worked, very collaboratively on when was it right for them to leave the market and come over to this new market, and then they just, did the same process that I did to backfill. So we go ahead and promote. We try not to hold people back. Love to say that we have our bench strength that's lined up, and I think through our talent management planning, we do have high potentials that are either here in the region or they're from another region that we can draw upon. But it's really important, and you mentioned winning. It's not my phrase. I can't lay claim to it, but it is one that is deeply ingrained in our employees, in our division, and it's called working together to win together. And it's just sort of our motto, and when it comes up all the time. It's like, well, you just have this opportunity to work together to win together, and then you just move forward. So it's a wonderful slogan, but it's more than that too. It's something that we live by.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, unfortunately, we are out of time. But Vicky, that was a great demonstration on how to build winning sales cultures where sales talent thrives. So thank you for being on our show and being our lab rat today and sharing your perspective on these concepts.
It was a pleasure. Thanks so much, Greg. It was a lot of fun.
Great. All right, and I want to thank the SBI audience for tuning in. You've made us the most popular podcast in this category for the 8th month in a row. So thanks for your loyalty, and we'll keep working hard for you, bringing you great guests like we did today. All right, if you want to learn more about this topic or the other areas we focus on, go to salesbenchmarkindex.com/register and create an account. If you do so, this allows you to personalize your experience with our content. So for example, you can choose the topics you're interested in and how often you want to learn about them. Okay, that is it for today. And as always, until next time, I wish you good luck as you try and make your number.
This has been the SBI Podcast. For more information on SBI services, case studies, the SBI team and how we work, or to subscribe to our other offerings, please visit us at salesbenchmarkindex.com.